Net ground. I'm going to demonstrate how to work net ground and parallel block bars. I will start with net ground. Net ground is worked mainly as a background fill-in. I started in the same way as fine net and oversewed to the starting point on the left. Stitches are larger than fine net, so I'm starting a little further down on the left. Bring the thread across to the right and stitch into the edge of the tape, bringing the needle under the base thread to give a whip. Whip the base thread again. Then throw the thread to the left and pick up the edge of the tape at a point above the first stitch and bring the needle down over the base thread and out on the right of the working thread, giving a single twist to the stitch. Add a second twist by taking the needle under the vertical thread from left to right. Finish the stitch by whipping the base thread to the left of the working thread twice. So net ground is worked with a double twist on the vertical and a double whip between stitches. So I'm going to continue on now to the end of the row. The double twist on the vertical thread, followed by the double whip on the base thread. So you can see there's more space between rows than with fine net. So for the second row of net ground, I'm going to work into the spaces of the row above, remembering the double twist on the vertical thread and the double whip on the base thread between stitches. That's the double twist on the vertical and the double whip on the base thread between stitches. Parallel block bars. Net ground also forms the basis of parallel block bars, which is used as a filling stitch. The first row is a row of net ground. I have done that already. Over sew to the next row. Take the thread across to the right, bringing the needle under the base thread to give a whip. Work another whip on the base thread. Then work a block of 4 net ground stitches into each space above. There's only one whip between stitches in the block to keep them close together. I missed the first stitch in the row above because I thought it might make my stitches too close together. You really have to judge that by eye. Work 2 whips between blocks. So I've done my 2 whips and I'm going to work a block of 4 net ground stitches into the next space above. Remembering there's only one whip between stitches in the block to keep them close together. So I've finished my block, coming to the last stitch of the block now. And then 2 whips on the base thread. And continue on working into the stitches above to the end of the row. So all the time I'm making that double twist on the vertical thread. Now I'm going to move on to the next row. So taking the thread across to the right, whip the base thread twice. My first whip is formed by bringing the needle out under the base thread, and that's followed by a second whip. And then work one net ground stitch between each block. Followed by the 2 whips between each stitch. Adding the second twist by taking the needle under the vertical thread from left to right. Under the vertical thread from left to right, followed by 2 whips on the base thread. So continue in this way, working into the spaces between the blocks. So you can see that parallel block bars is a row of net ground followed by a row of blocks. If you want your parallel blocks closer together, instead of doing 2 whips between blocks, you could do 1 whip.